Aviation Safety Solutions. He joins us now live from Chapel Hill in North Carolina. Thank you so much, Jacques, for making the time. Now, as a former pilot and inspector at the Federal Aviation Authority for over 30 years, with your expertise, what could have gone wrong? I ask this knowing that the Turkish head of communications in a statement said that the plane reported electrical failure before the crash.
So the problem with this story right now is that there's very little information to go on. First of all, it was reported that they reported an emergency. They had a technical problem. They were requesting an emergency landing, and they lost contact before they could reveal any specifics. And then apparently from the information that I have, the aircraft exploded and hit the ground. So that kind of an accident is going to be a painstaking investigation to determine the cause. The Falcon 50 is a very reliable airplane. To my knowledge, I have not heard of one incident involving a Falcon 50 that had such a catastrophic failure. However, the possibilities are extraordinary in terms of what could possibly have gone wrong.
Absolutely, and it's a 37-year-old Dassault Falcon 50, like you said there, making it a long-range business jet. It's raining in Ankara, as our correspondent Hassan Abdullah told us earlier on. Could that have been a contributing factor?
Well, the age of the airplane is not necessarily an issue. It depends on how well maintained the aircraft was, or unfortunately how poorly maintained the aircraft may have been. Despite the fact that the airplane was manufactured in 1988, does not necessarily mean that because it's an old aircraft, it was an unairworthy aircraft. All it means is that it was old, but if it was maintained, it's just as good an airplane as any newly manufactured airplane. So age has nothing to do with it unless the maintenance on the aircraft was poorly, unless the aircraft was poorly maintained, in which case that could be a contributing factor.
Right, but then let's break down the events that led to the crash, because, you know, my basic aviation knowledge, I acknowledge you're the expert here, but my knowledge tells me that takeoff and landing are the most critical phases of any flight. Now, the statement by the Turkish government says the business jet took off at 17:17 GMT, reported an emergency at 17:33 GMT. That's exactly 16 minutes. What do you make of this?
Right, so my times were a little different. However, despite the difference, the airplane was well beyond its takeoff critical areas. The critical areas after takeoff are really in the very, very first few minutes, what we call a first and second segment climb, which typically for that airplane is only a matter of a few minutes. 2, 3, 4 tops, and at the place where the airplane was, which was what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes after the takeoff, it was well beyond the takeoff criticality area where, you know, any kind of critical issues, such as, for example, an engine failure, weather-related issues would have taken effect. So this aircraft was well on its way to a safe altitude where if there were an emergency that was not catastrophic, they would have had altitude, time, and airspeed to deal with any emergency that could have come up. This emergency apparently was catastrophic in that whatever happened, the crew had no control of the issue.
Absolutely. Wait and see what comes of the investigations currently in place. Jacques Astre, the president of International Aviation Safety Solutions, thank you for your time and your insights.